It's no Captain Ribbon, but that's okay. Or Stag.
Did you ever see the movie Blue Velvet with Dennis Hopper? Well, I'll YouTube you a clip of it later. It's so funny.
And if you are a fan of Blue Velvet, then you are ready for episode 7.
Discussion.
What was that, Dan?
Discography discussion.
What was that, Dan?
Discography discussion.
What are we talking about tonight?
Megadeth.
Megadeth? Josh is back there, too. You can see him this time.
I know. Hi, guys.
This might be the worst opening we've ever done.
Probably.
Which means it's going to be the best episode we've ever done.
Clearly, it will be that.
I don't know. Slayer was pretty good.
It was pretty heavy.
You a fan of Slayer?
And consistent.
We're discussing that other band.
Dude,
Megadeth.
are we seriously approaching band 3 of the Big 4?
Yeah, and according to you, we're never going to do the 4th one.
Well, I'm on board with that. I mean,
no, we're not ever doing an Anthrax episode.
it's nothing again. I don't know. Whatever.
Don't say it's nothing, because just say it for what it is. Between all of the bands, that is the one that you do not enjoy.
They're the weak link of the 4.
I got nothing.
Like, they're a good band. I just don't like their vocalists.
I just don't acknowledge it. I'm sorry. I just don't like it.
Scott Ian, I give a little shout out for him. He's a killer guitar player.
But anyway, let's talk about a band we do like.
Dave Mustaine.
Dave Mustaine, the band.
Pretty much.
A.K.A. Megadeth.
We're not going to discuss the lineup changes because there's quite a few.
Yeah, I'm not going to deal with it.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
I ain't got time for that kind of negativity in my life.
Outside of Dave, the only other constant guy who's been in there for the majority of it would be their bass player. What's it? I forget his first name. Elfson was his last name. Anybody?
You the bass player?
Bueller. Yeah.
Isn't he in the Trans-Siberian
Bueller.
Orchestra?
Yes, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
Like
so. Yeah.
wiping his butt with $100 bills?
Yes.
Just what I would be doing.
That's right. We tied in Megadeth to Sabotage again. Look it up. So, how did Megadeth get started, Josh, since I know you know the story?
Hit it, Josh.
Well, Dave Mustaine was the original lead guitarist for a little band called Metallica.
Who's that?
Well, they're this little metal band that came out of California.
Didn't we already do an episode on them?
Started the whole thrash movement.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, so now pause this episode and listen to episode 1 and then start again.
We'll come back in 30. No, he was the original guitar player in Metallica, as everyone knows. And before Kill 'Em All came out, he was kicked out of the band.
Unceremoniously.
Yeah, kind of a dick move. As the story goes, they woke him up, put him on a bus, sent him back east.
Careful now, that phrase is trademarked.
Is it really?
As the story goes.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, wait, that would be as it grows, right?
As the story grows.
story
We'll talk
grows.
about that later.
Giggity.
So before we get too far, I'm going to take the time to say thank you to everybody that listens to this podcast, and there are many of you. We are on iTunes. We are on Google Play. We are on Stitcher. We are on TuneIn Radio. So if you have an Amazon Echo product, you can tell it to play the latest episode of Discography Discussion, and you will hear these lovely voices right here.
Yepper.
Yum.
We're also on Twitter at Discuss Metal. We have a domain set up, www.discussmetal.com. Although right now, your best bet is to go to podcast.discussmetal.com. But if you're listening to this, you've probably already been there, and thank you.
Yes, thank you. Without you, we could not be doing this.
Well, we could do this.
We'd
but
still be doing it,
nobody
but it
would be
wouldn't be as
listening to it.
fun.
Yeah.
Oh, Megadeth. So Dave gets kicked out of the band and begrudgingly starts Megadeth.
Very begrudgingly.
Very much.
His whole total
life's-
rebound, total revenge.
Yep, I mean, and in all honesty, I would say for probably the better part of, 10, 13 albums were trying to be better than Metallica.
Aren't there 14 albums total?
You know, you might think that many records were going to be in for a 2 or 3 hour conversation, but with Megadeth, you get to summarize it at certain points because Dave, as a songwriter, is a very consistent songwriter.
Pretty much.
And there are eras, especially the most recent 4 albums, that I would call, those are records written, those are Megadeth albums. And every single song is good for those fans out there of the Foo Fighters who say that every song by the Foo Fighters sounds like the Foo Fighters and it's good. Well, guess what? Megadeth, they're guilty of that. you're going to get an album. You're not going to get any surprises. There was a couple of spots there where you might have, but for the most part, it all sounds consistent.
Experiments here or there, but yeah. Much like Slayer, they have one formula, and they pretty much stuck to it most of their career.
And it's no secret that I am a Metallica fan, James Hetfield, when it comes to guitar styles and whatnot, Josh being of Kirk. But, Megadeth got a bad rap from metal fans for years for basically no reason.
For not being Metallica.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's the thing crap, because Dave is actually an awesome guitar player. Like, a lot of their stuff is riff-driven. I mean, their songs, like we were just discussing beforehand.
Technical.
It's technical. So there's so few bands to where when you go to a live show, the crowd can hum and sing the guitar parts. And that's Dave is, all that stuff's come from his head. He's a genius on that stuff.
They're
for sure.
Definitely a guitar player's band.
Yes.
I think the criticisms I've heard from the various interviews and documentaries I've seen done and live performances, you always hear the same thing. Like, the fans are asking for more complex bass parts. They're asking us for better beats. The drums in Megadeth
Beats
are
by Dave.
very consistent in their style or expectation. I mean, it's thrash, so you're not breaking any rules here, but
It's mostly thrash.
you can hear
Dave's thrash.
very consistent, like, this is the beat this needs, so let's not create anything out of this world that nobody wants to hear.
Aw. Did you listen to Killing Is My Business?
Speaking of Killing Is My Business, that's right.
And Business is good.
1985.
God, I wish I could have been in that studio when Dave was just writing this album. I would have loved to have been there just to see the stuff that he's just muttering to himself as he's laying down these tracks.
I feel like, there probably were like angry spells where he'd just throw his guitar down and walk off into a room and you just hear screaming and smashing things in the other room.
Yeah, I can't imagine that would not have not happened at some point. The first couple of albums.
Can you imagine if cell phones had been invented?
Oh, jeez.
When Dave was kicked out of Metallica? I mean, can you imagine how many voicemails would have been on James Hetfield's phone? Like, you guys suck. I want you all to die. I'm going to go start the best band ever. You guys suck. Call me back, though. Really, really call me back.
I'll come back if you want me to. I'll go to AA. Come on.
Come on, guys.
There we are. We're right there. It was, Dave, you're an alcoholic, so we're kicking you out. And
out of a band that became known as Alcoholica.
I know, right?
well,
yeah, but he wasn't a happy drunk like the other ones were.
He was a don't hurt my Danish friend drunk.
Yeah, he was kind of a take no prisoners type.
If Lars Ulrich hurt himself, would Dave have to throw him off a cliff?
Yes.
Probably, yeah.
Conundrums.
I'm not going to answer that question tonight.
So we all know Dave's kicked out of Metallica. He goes off to start his own band because you guys suck and I'm awesome.
I'll show you.
Yeah. So in response to Kill 'Em All, 1983, in 85, Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good comes out. Because he had to use the word killing at that point. I mean,
exactly.
And
they, quote unquote, took some of his riffs for, Kill 'Em All, according to him. So.
Sure.
Which is blatantly obvious.
He complained. Actually, he complained as far forward as Master of Puppets that some of his ideas were even on those records. I can't really say.
That's going to be Kill 'Em All. I think you could tell for sure. I mean, I think it was uncommon knowledge at that point, kind of the unwritten rule that Dave Mustaine had.
Jump in the fire.
He had a big influence.
Phantom Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who's
the Four
seen
Horsemen.
the early works, yeah.
Oh,
The
really?
Mechanics.
He wrote the Four Horsemen?
I mean, the most blatant example was the first Metallica demos. There was a song on it called Mechanics.
Yep.
And that song was later slowed down. The bridge was changed and the vocals were changed, and it became the Four Horsemen.
Yep.
And kind of another Dave middle finger, the Mechanics ended up on Killing Is My Business.
Yep.
And I hear this, and I ask the question, did he play it faster just to prove a point? Because I don't ever remember seeing recordings of them playing live where
No,
they
I don't
played
know.
it this fast.
If you've seen the Cliff 'Em All, they hear gigs, and I think like the Whiskey Go-Go, whatever they were playing it, and Dave would definitely play like stupid fast. Like Metallica plays fast live because that was their style, but Dave was like half a step faster than even James, which is crazy to say. So I would think so. I think that was just his style. I think he was just trying to play as fast as he normally would.
I think it's weird that the vocal melody is the same too, if you can call this melody.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah.
But yeah, like the vocal lines are the same too, just with different lyrics, which I always thought was kind of weird.
Well, this song was written entirely by Dave, to my understanding.
Yeah. So I mean, he may have written the vocal lines for it. I actually prefer the Mechanics to the Four Horsemen. That's not to say that I dislike the Four Horsemen.
Well,
but,
sure.
But Mechanics just sounds more raw. And that's what I like about Killing Is My Business. And for a long time, it was my favorite Megadeth record because when I was a lot younger, I was really about extremes. And Killing Is My Business is probably one of the most extreme Megadeth albums, but also kind of not in a good way, too. I think Dr. Ian Malcolm said it best in Jurassic Park when he said, you guys spent so much time concentrating on whether or not you could, you never stopped to think if you should. And so I think these songs suffer a little bit. And really just from the time that it came out, by 85, we'd already had more thrash bands that had done the Kill 'Em All thing. And I think Killing Is My Business sounds a lot like Kill 'Em All, but it's like we're going to outdo it. And I guess it would just depend on who you ask would tell you, whether or not this is better than Kill 'Em All or not. And for me, it really just depends on what day it is and what mood I'm in.
Sure. It's a little different. I don't think you can compare the two side by side that they would be identical.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly extreme. Dave sounds really pissed off, which get used to that.
Yeah, that's
his whole thing.
That's a theme for his career.
Really like Dave's singing throughout their career.
Because he's got that snarly, kind of growling signature.
Yeah, like if a voice could sound sarcastic, like
Dave.
that's it.
It's Dave
yeah.
Mustaine for sure.
And this album, a lot of the mystique that Dave does have comes from just how Megadeth was formed and all the decisions that were made in that process. The fact that he's the lead singer essentially came down to they were in the studio and nobody wanted to sing, so he said, well, I guess I'll do it. The Mechanics
pretty much.
is essentially, I wrote this song, so I'm recording it. And, it's my favorite line he's ever said in a live show. You can hear it on the Rude Awakening performance that you can watch on DVD or probably online if you look. There are two ways you can hear this song. There's our way and there's their way. And for those of you that think this is their way, this song is called The Mechanics.
Nice.
It's good.
What do you want to say about it? This is the guy that was in Metallica who spent a lot of time hammering out a sound with them, hammering out a song styles, riffs, and they said, we don't need you. So he said, well, I don't need you, and this is what we got.
Right.
I've never really thought that Metallica and Megadeth are in the same ballpark with each other. They appeal to the same fans, but it's never the same type. Where Metallica was always trying to take it a step forward and become a little more mainstream, Dave was always the one, at least for a lot longer, that it was about being metal. A lot more like Slayer.
Keep it metal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Never branching out, staying within himself.
I mean, I think
The first 4 or 5 albums, at least.
I think this was a difficult birthing process for the band. I think it was necessary. And like I said, I have no issues with Killing Is My Business. I really like when I'm pissed off. I mean, it's great to listen to. And, it's definitely one of my go-to records when I just want to listen to something fast, something angry.
Good riffs.
Yeah, great riffs, good solos. I mean, Dave's got it all. And I mean, he's completely right that he didn't need Metallica, you know. He definitely was a powerhouse on his own. And this first record kind of shows that, but again, I think there's a little bit too much of an anti-Metallica attitude in it, and
which is to be expected. I mean,
right, I get it, but it kind of drags it down too, because you're getting a record that's kind of similar to Kill 'Em All. And Joe, remind me, what year did Ride the Lightning come out?
86.
86. So a year later. So like, I feel
Try again, Josh. You're thinking of Puppets.
All right, then it was 84.
84. So Metallica had already moved on from that Kill 'Em All sound. But then like here's Dave Mustaine, who used to be in Metallica, and he's doing it again. And I think that might be where the split is with fans, in that they're like, well, Dave Mustaine's only capable of the Kill 'Em All sound. At least at that time.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
like you got to think
because he's not like
in
he's going to play.
'85.
He's not going to play anything any different at that point. I mean, he's still. Yeah, I don't.
He's still getting some of those ideas that were like 6, 7 years old off the ground.
I almost look at
point.
this as an album like this is an album he had to do to kind of get the anti-Metallica, like fuck you guys. I can't believe that you screwed me over. I think like he had to get this out of his system. I think this is the album because then when you go from this into the next album, Peace Sells. I mean, I think you can hear a completely different band.
Yeah, I mean, Peace Sells was where it was like, okay. Megadeth is its own.
This is Megadeth, not Metallica.
Right.
0.
This is its own thing.
Yeah, like this is something completely different.
And it is definitely its own thing because you know what we got next?
Peace Sells, bro.
Is this an MTV music update?
Who's buying? Exactly.
If I had to pick one song that defines Megadeth, it would be Peace Sells.
Well, and this was kind of their introduction to where they kind of focus on war. War is a very common theme in Megadeth. Kind of like how Slayer's theme is, Satanism or not Satanism, anti-religion. Yeah. So that's their shtick. But Megadeth's shtick has always
war
been
and politics,
war and corruption and politics.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this came out 1 year later. I think the total time was less than 15 months.
Right. I think Killing Is My Business was like, here's all my old ideas and here's all the new stuff I've been writing.
Here's Metallica stuff that I have to get off my chest, and then this is the stuff I've been writing since then.
And it's huge. I don't think it's stylistically as different as like the difference between like Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, but again, Dave was keeping it metal here.
Stay in the roots.
Right. He wasn't. I don't think he was going for mainstream appeal here.
No, I don't think he had. I think he had zero interest in trying to be played on radio. Not that Metallica with Ride the Lightning was going, all right, well, we want to be on the radio now.
Right.
I think Dave Moore was like, you know what? Oh, we're gonna thrash. We're gonna just one speed and go.
Right.
No issues with trying to try a new sound or anything.
Well, if you were lucky enough to pick this, Killing Is My Business up in '85, and next year there's a new Megadeth, and you pick that up. You throw that in and, it pops on with Wake Up Dead.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I'm already kind of in a different mood, but I hear what would become the Dave sound.
Oh, yeah.
He's not afraid to hit a chord, hold it, let the drums hit a beat, and then just sit there and go, I'm going to tell you something you didn't know.
Right.
Or maybe you did know, and here's my next note. Like,
yeah, it's unique.
It's
it's different. It's stylistic to him,
Well, it just makes me wonder if it was difficult for him to sing over playing it, so it's easier to play, stop,
to
play.
talk.
Yeah. I mean,
Sure.
As a guy who wasn't a lead singer, guitar at the same time, I mean, this was probably his adaptation to it, which has actually been kind of a refreshing take, I would think.
Well, and as extreme as Megadeth was at this time, they still weren't Slayer, so Dave has kind of more of an approach where like I'm still playing metal, but I need to be able to sing.
Yes.
And so I think he fills the parts that are hard to sing over with more of like the talking. What you get used to is Dave Mustaine just being like, I'm just going to talk to you right now,
There's several Daves talking to you at this point.
Right. But I mean, I like that. It made the band stand out for Metallica. This was the first record where you could say, okay, Megadeth's actually a thing now. It's not some weird novelty like with alternate versions of Metallica songs on it, like.
Yeah, well, like I said, I feel like with the first album, that's just like the album Dave had to get out of the way. Like, okay, now I can move on. Now I can focus on Dave being Megadeth and not
right
anti-Metallica.
Yeah, and I think Killing Is My Business probably did pretty well. And so I think when Peace Sells came out, I think he had a little bit of hype to ride off of,
sure,
too. I'm sure, because they're in heavy metal, more unique, more so than in any other genre. In heavy metal, every time a band does something different, fans hate it. So
well,
I think,
of course, the hardcore fans are
right. So I think the people that loved "Kill 'Em All" by Metallica probably were disappointed in Lightning because they're idiots.
Yeah, and then Puppets, and I'm disappointed with that because it's slow, it's melodic,
right?
Yada yada.
Right. So like to have something like Megadeth in the pocket, to be like, you know what, I want to listen to that old school sound, and I'm going to listen to Megadeth. Yeah, like. And that's I think where the Megadeth, the hardcore Megadeth fans came from.
The thrash heads who wanted to stick around to that same sound all the time, like, well, I'll go from Metallica to Megadeth because they're keeping it real.
Right. I mean, there's some kid in the corner that's like, hey man, yeah, you guys like that new Metallica record? Well, you need to listen to this.
And I think that's where you get your division of Metallica fan and Megadeth fans, where the Metallica fans are like, well, to hell with Megadeth, they suck, and then Megadeth fans are like, oh, well, Metallica sucks, and
Right, and neither one of them suck.
No,
They're both great
yeah.
bands, like, and that's the weird thing is as an adult, because when I was younger and less mature, I definitely saw division like that. Like you had to pick one or the other. As an adult, I'm like, dude,
Nope,
there's
they're
two
both
awesome
awesome.
albums I can listen to now. Like that's so awesome.
It's an interesting thought that if it had been 5 years later, he probably wouldn't have started a band called Megadeth. It probably would have been Dave Mustaine.
Yeah, possibly.
the Dave Mustaine experience.
Because what happens when that band comes out that's really, really good, and then the lead singer decides they don't want to deal with the rest of the band's crap, so they go
Right.
solo, like Peter Gabriel. It sounds exactly like Genesis,
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
except it's Peter Gabriel. With Megadeth,
Genesis is
you
still
kind of
better,
have
Joe.
a guy who went solo because he had no choice.
I was gonna say,
Right? Yeah.
I still view Megadeth as
And it
Dave
was
Mustaine
the
and
last
backup
middle finger.
guys.
Like, you know
See-
what? This is called Megadeth.
I disagree a little bit in the sense that, yeah, sure, it's all Dave pulling the strings behind, but I feel like the first 4 Megadeth records, first 4 or 5, it sounds like a band. It doesn't sound like it
I don't
all
mean that it
came
does
from
sound like
Dave.
a band, but
Like-
he's writing everything. He's, he's
yeah.
going, well, this is what I want you to play. This is what I want you. It's not like anybody's contributing, quote unquote, their own ideas. I mean, this is in Dave's head, I think. And if he's
Yeah.
like, you don't want to do this, then get out.
I could see that. I mean, I get it. I feel like it just sounds more collaborative, whereas I think
And it might be. It might be we're like, well, let's try this note instead of that one. And Dave's like, okay. But I feel like there's an overall, like, okay, this is what I want you to play. Maybe on fills or something, they have their own ideas. But I feel like this is Dave's vision and always has been.
yeah,
Maybe not so much later on after he mellowed out and was like, you know what, I wasted too much time worrying about this.
I
But
mean, I agree on the later albums. The earlier ones, though, I feel like were still more of a collaborative effort. A couple of things that I will give Megadeth over Metallica: much better drumming. Number one. Sorry, Lars. I just it's just that there was a lot more going on with Megadeth. I feel like they really bridged the gap between like Metallica
well, their
and
first
Slayer.
drummer, their first drummer was
Yeah.
great. They had a drummer after that. I want to say after their fourth or fifth album, and that they get a new drummer. It was,
yeah.
Again, we won't get into the lineup changes too much because he
Right.
went through quite a
There's
bit.
so many.
Yeah, I mean,
But I think overall the drumming was better. I think the guitar playing, if you're a guitarist, I think you're going to find a little bit more to chew on with Megadeth.
sure. Again, riff oriented, riff
Right.
driven,
Megadeth is definitely a guitar player's
Yep.
band.
without a doubt.
If you want a definition or a really good example of how to be a really solid, heavy band, Megadeth is a good place to start.
Yeah, and I think Peace Sells was really I think it was a really good album as far as differentiating the band from Metallica.
It was
think-
a good start for them.
Yeah, I think if you didn't know the story and you just bought a Megadeth record, I think you could like it on its own merit.
I mean,
Um,
right here you got 88. So far, so good. So what?
Which is another
yeah,
really good album.
Well, that's a good album. I don't think it's as good as Peace Sells.
no, Peace is my favorite for sure.
Because it seems a little lazy to me, and it seems like it's more like, I don't know, like there just wasn't as much like thought or love put into it as you had with Peace Sells.
I may be making this up, but I remember hearing him talk about this album as we had to do it and we didn't want to,
Right.
so we kind of just
An
So far, so
obligation
good.
album
So
on the
what?
label.
Right.
I could see that because there's some hit and misses. It's not as technical as the first couple. The lyrics, are lazy, or I guess the cheese factor on it's a little different. Some of the stuff sounds forced.
an album has to have at least one song on it that you have to listen to that record to hear. And,
I don't get that with this record.
I get hook and mouth. That's it.
It's like a collection of okay songs.
I'm okay with actually skipping this one because
Yeah, it's
I mean it's a good record. I mean it's a good Megadeth record. I don't think there's a whole lot that differentiates it from Peace Sells.
here we go. This one's the good.
But it's
Rest in
also
peace.
like
Josh is getting ahead of the listener.
I know. I'm getting
Well,
excited because this is like a.
Josh is like, I can see the screen.
Yep.
So what's next?
Well,
Rest in peace.
if
Rest in
you were a
peace.
fan of Metallica and you paid enough attention to read the linear notes, Kill 'Em All is not the only album that would have Dave Mustaine's name on it. Ride the Lightning, there is one song that has Mustaine credited, and that is The Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
And I won't take the time to play it because me and Josh will be gone for the next 8 minutes.
Yeah, we'll probably end up playing it.
But, Dan, are you ready for Rust in Peace?
Oh, dude, I love Rust in Peace.
tie with my favorite album.
Hangar 18.
Favorite song.
Take No Prisoners.
This is probably one of my...
Tornado of Souls. I mean, come on,
as a guy
man.
who's a huge fan of Metallica, obviously, this is one of my favorite guitar riff kind of songs is Hangar 18.
I love it, man. It's like...
super spy sounding.
Yeah, like it's the Call of Cthulhu, but it's not at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's really like, yeah, it's the same riff or whatever.
It's got lyrics, but I always think of it as an instrumental more so than
that song can instantly change my mood. I'm having a bad day. Things aren't going my way. I put on Hangar 18 and I'm in total bliss.
Take No Prisoners,
Yep.
Holy Wars.
Oh man,
Holy
Take No
Wars,
Prisoners.
Take No Prisoners.
Oh.
Do you want me to kick it forward a little bit here?
Yep.
Yeah, because
Okay,
we'll
here
just
we go.
listen
Let's
to
touch
Hangar
on most
18
of it.
over and over again. And
I know.
Take No Prisoners was just such a heavy song for me. I just, again, it's one of those songs that, here comes the sentimental stuff, but it's one of those songs I emotionally connected with a lot. Yeah, it's just a song about not taking shit from people, and you got to respect that.
How many years has he had that pent up?
I got pushed around when I was a kid, and
You did not. Don't lie.
Shut up, I did too. You were
did
there.
not. It's because I did it.
Douche. Anyway, but yeah, I just had a rough time when I was a kid, and a song like Take No Prisoners really empowered me to stop taking abuse from other people, and I listened to that song, and it just made me feel powerful. And
That's why we listen to metal, because a lot of those guys got picked on. That's why they did bands.
Absolutely, yeah. As we
That's why
talked,
they
as
play
we talked
instruments
about in the Korn
Yeah, I mean,
episode,
that's the reason why we just kicked
that song really feels good to me, and it helps me kind of helps me deal with that kind of history, and that song really just I don't know. You should not really listen to Tornado of Souls.
I know,
Another
right?
great song.
This is the great flaw of this idea of listening to some of our favorite
Dude,
bands. 'cause
honestly, we could
get
do a
lost on
3-hour.
tangent.
We could do a 3-hour podcast
I
on
know.
Rust in Peace. I mean, it's just.
We won't. We'll keep it short. It's a great album.
It's also, I think, kind of the most it's the
Complete
most. It's the
album.
definitive
Yeah.
Megadeth record. Whether it's your favorite or not remains to be seen. But
Really? You think that Rust in Peace is the definitive?
absolutely.
Okay. We got a lot more albums to have this out, but
Oh, dude,
We'll get there.
come on. This is
you
it.
might still win. That's the sad part.
This is it, bro. I mean, you produce a thrash metal album for me that comes even close to Rust in Peace.
Okay, let me turn this to Josh here. Josh,
And don't say Rain of Blood.
in your eyes, what is the definitive Metallica record?
Well, for me, it was always if you ask fans, it's going to be Master of Puppets. Like
Okay.
that's their.
I agree.
So
that's their definitive album.
definitive Slayer would be Raining Blood, right?
Absolutely.
So if Rust in Peace is the definitive Megadeth,
Yeah.
hats off to the 80s for creating some of the greatest music that metal fans have ever heard.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
sure.
there's a reason they picked 4 bands and called them the Big
The
Four.
Big Four, yeah. I think this is an album to where I can put it on and listen from the first song and listen to every song on the album in its entirety, where I can't necessarily say that about some of their other albums. Like, there's good songs in some of their albums, but, I'm like, okay, well, I'll skip over this one. Skip over this one. This one I can listen to from start to finish.
I took a 4-hour road trip one time and I put in Rust in Peace and I never changed CDs until I got there. And
I mean, I believe it.
and
This
I
is
wasn't.
one
It
of those
wasn't even a
albums.
conscious decision. Like I'm going to listen to Rust in Peace for
Boom.
4 hours. But
Hit it again.
I was just enjoying myself so much that I was like, you know what, this is great. I love Dave's voice on this too, because this is kind of the classic Dave Mustaine. He would actually get more gravelly and
I was
growly,
going to say, kind of more in
towards
tune
the end.
voice.
I mean, when you get into the 2000s, I mean, he sounds very, like he's-
Raspy and...
yeah, and I
it's
like that.
Wear and tear.
Nothing wrong with it, but like something about his voice on this record really just ties together that old school metal sound for me, and it's synonymous to me with 80s metal.
tuned the voice that you would know today from him starts from this album.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh God, I love Rust in Peace. Sorry,
I know.
I went full fanboy. I know I'm not supposed to go full fanboy, but
Yeah, but the next album's not bad either.
No, I like the next album.
Countdown's a good album.
But I don't like it as much as I like Rust in Peace.
No.
But all right, we got to keep this thing going. So
I
we'll
know.
listen. We'll talk about Countdown.
So Countdown to Extinction.
Symphony
It's
of
always
Destruction.
it's fun for me to just pick the song to bring the album in on when we talk about it, because I could just start the record, or I could pick the song that gets you hyped up.
Symphony of Destruction.
It's hard to pick because this album has
No,
so many
Sweaty
good
Bullets,
tracks.
bro.
Oh,
Sweaty
okay.
Bullets.
All right. You win.
It's a tie.
I retract. I retract.
They're a tie.
Symphony of Destruction's good too, but it's not like a straight ahead thrash.
No.
You know,
Sweaty Bullets, I love it. It's just Dave struggling with his inner psyche.
This is actually the first Megadeth record that I thought they actually started going for a little bit more mainstream sound.
Well, sure, those were. I mean, they did music videos for Sweating Bullets and Symphony.
Yeah.
And that's probably more of their. I wouldn't know, their common commercial. Like the casual fan would know those Megadeth songs before anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what do you know from Megadeth? Oh, Symphony, or Sweaty
oh yeah,
Bullets.
for sure. Yeah, I mean,
This
Thank
starts
you,
some of
Guitar
those-
Hero.
Yeah,
I like Skin on My Teeth.
that's good.
Yeah, it's a good opener.
So, yeah.
Megadeth is pretty good at writing openers.
Yeah.
A good opener doesn't have to be an instrumental. It doesn't have to be a hit. It just has to get you in the mood for what you're about to listen to. And then I listen to this and I say, where did Symphony of Destruction come from?
Right? Yeah, it's
Totally different.
totally weird. Yeah, but I really fit. And if you're the kind of thrash fan that says, "Well, I don't like that song because it's weak,"
It's a good drum beat that keeps the head bobbing.
Oh,
the
yeah,
entire- you
it's-
can headbang to this. It doesn't have to be 1,000 miles.
It's
a minute.
the first. Tell that to Slayer.
Yeah.
It's the first
Cat Strangler.
Megadeth song where I feel like they really experimented with. Let's see how far we can get with a good beat and with hooks.
Oh, it's definitely a hooky lyrics, hooky riffs, hooky drum. I mean, everything in this is a hook.
Yeah, and it just gets stuck in your head. You can't get it out, and Dave's voice again really carries this, and but if you're the type of thrash fan that feels like oh, this is weak, this is stupid, this is blah blah blah, I think it was really a testament to Dave's versatility. In the sense that, we've already known that Dave can thrash it out with the best of everybody on Killing Is My Business. We already knew that. We knew what Dave Mustaine was capable of. And he delivered us, 1, 2, 3 albums
Three
of that
albums of straight thrash.
in a row. So, I think at this point, we're beyond having to prove, look at how metal we are. And so I think Symphony of Destruction was a really good testament to, what else can we do? Yeah.
I love this.
Sweating Bullets.
Sweating Bullets, we can hang out here all day.
I know.
I know, right? It's just
So many of Megadeth's, oh man, I can't even say it. There's so many of their albums that you can just sit down and listen to.
Yep.
And that is the definition of a good band that has made an impact. You just keep listening to it.
Oh yeah, dude, it's killer.
Who else would have a conversation
Hello,
with himself and
me.
then answer back?
This guy. Right here.
Crazy.
For
people.
those of you young kids who don't know what a video is, the video for this is awesome.
Internet killed the video star.
Pretty much. Yeah. When you get done listening to the podcast, go check this video out. It is awesome.
It'll be in low res.
Yes.
The bars on the side of your screen are normal.
Yes.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, Countdown is great. It's got a scary cover. Still makes people uncomfortable when you're like, I'm going to listen to this now. I was unpacking boxes with the dude for 4 hours one day, and he's like, you want to put some music on? I was like, yes. I put down Countdown to Destruction. He's like, dude, how do you listen to stuff like this and not want to kill people? And I was like, dude, you have no idea how far down the rabbit hole goes. I was listening to Megadeth to be nice.
Yeah, that's no kidding.
Yeah.
This is what I listen to when I want to go to sleep, and it's nice and relaxing.
If I wanted to unload boxes by myself, I'd listen to Rain and Blood,
That's right. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to really say about this album. I mean, it's
Just good songs.
It was absolutely influential for their career.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
mean,
it's their best album by a long shot, but I mean, it's hard to follow Rust in Peace,
sure.
And I'm glad that they didn't try to. They could have put out a complete carbon copy of Rust in Peace, and we probably would be talking right now about what a great classic it is. But I think it's cool that they switched it up. Unfortunately for a lot of the fans, though, they're continuing to switch it up kind of became a problem after a while.
Well, because they never really went anywhere as far as mainstream for those first 4 or 5 albums. So all you have is your hardcore fans, and if
Right.
you alienate them, then you don't have anybody left to really play for.
Right. Well, and with Countdown, they were still Megadeth. It was still cool enough for people to like it. And I feel like Megadeth kind of eased into a more mainstream sound, unlike Metallica, who just kind of like, all right, guys, here's the Black album.
Black.
Yeah, and then from Black to Load, it just they just it's obvious they really weren't listening to fan input.
I think this is Megadeth's first mainstream attempt album.
Sure, and I think it's on par with Black Album.
Sure.
I actually like it more than Black Album a lot, and that could just be because Black Album's really overplayed for me in my head.
Oh, well, yeah.
If I was comparing the two side by side whenever I first heard them, maybe I'd feel differently. But I really like Countdown a lot, and it was interesting to see what direction they went in next with Euthanasia.
Which was an interesting direction.
I don't know, man. It's still heavy, but it's more
I
like
don't discount the fact that it's heavy. It's just
it's more
different.
like a traditional metal heavy.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not thrash.
Not thrash more. I don't even. Just regular metal, I guess. Just
yeah, like it's kind of like
just metal.
It's kind of like what Guns N' Roses was doing.
Yeah.
This was the year before Load dropped, or this might have been the same year that Load dropped. So
94.
Drop a load.
It almost sounds like
I thought Load
the
and Reload
90s
were-
version of, okay, all the metal bands are releasing 90s records, so I'm going to try to do one too, and he just kind of didn't.
Yeah. I mean, this was
It's still Dave. It's still Megadeth.
still metal. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's honestly, I really don't have a problem with Euthanasia, and I know I'm committing metal sin after metal sin
I
by
don't
talking about
dislike it, but
Korn
it's
and
not-
talking about Euthanasia, but yeah.
And
I don't
and
know.
while it is not technically their highest grossing single of all time, the song that most people would say came from this record, and that's A Tout Le Monde.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
can you imagine a hardcore fan from 85, 86 goes up in time and then hears that, like, this is my Megadeth, plays this song? Can you imagine the reaction to their hardcore fan when
Oh,
this
dude,
come
I
out?
get it. Like, I've been that
Like,
guy.
what is this? Like, this
Yeah.
is their Nothing Else Matters. Like, what is this crap? Like, this is not my Megadeth.
Yeah, I've been that guy before with bands.
That doesn't surprise me, Dan.
No, I have been, and
But do you understand now as you get older?
not really. Some bands it was completely unacceptable, but in this case, I think it was fine because, again, Dave's really exploring here, and a common theme you're going to hear on this podcast is just because somebody does something different later on in their career doesn't take away from what they've done ever. Dude, if you want to just listen to Rust in Peace, then just do it, man. It's
Don't-
never going to get old. You're
Don't
going to love it.
criticize the new stuff.
Right,
if
the
you
new
don't
stuff,
care.
And I think it's a more mature reaction to say, I didn't care for the new stuff. It's not in the style that I enjoy.
See, I thought this was well done. This song's well done.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a good song.
Yep.
Like if you separate it from Dave and Megadeth and everything, it's a good song that you remember. And honestly, after that much extremity, it's almost expected that the band would slow down a bit.
Well, sure. You can't do it the same speed forever unless you're Slayer.
Well, not to be obvious, but like I like money. You guys like money,
Yeah, well, we're going to make that money is to play what they want to hear.
right?
if I were allowed to separate Megadeth into eras, this would be the first album of the second era.
I'd agree with that.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Because I don't know if it was Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings. I know it was Risk, but at some point in the 90s, he was working with essentially a country producer. And
Yeah.
you don't hear it on Euthanasia.
No.
You kind of hear it on Cryptic Writing, and
Not
you
like this.
really hear it on Risk.
Yeah, Risk is a
Yeah.
huge influence.
You
at that
can
point.
tell that
You know
somebody
the
else's
direction-
ears were on that
You know
one.
the direction that he's going with that.
So I give Euthanasia a pass for still being mostly metal.
Metal enough.
Yeah, it's heavy metal.
It gets a C+. It's still considered metal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. Cryptic Writings, well,
And this is Megadeth's highest grossing single, Trust,
Trust, yeah.
Which is another great song.
It is.
which fulfilled one of his professional goals to make a gold record.
These albums are full of great songs.
They're just not thrash or, what you're typically used to hearing from them from the early in the career.
Right.
It's
You do what you got to do. You're right. They
it's
like
different.
money. They want to continue doing that, so you got to kind of change.
I listen to this and I say, how is this the highest grossing song they've ever made?
it's a good song.
Because it takes a minute and a half to get going.
Well, that's true. Yeah, most singles are more of like your 2.5 minute.
Not when they play
radio
it
single.
live.
But see, that's not always true in certain cases. I mean, like look at Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's like 17 minutes
Yeah,
long.
it's not a 2-minute song. You know, like.
Are you
but it's
comparing
just
Dave
great.
Mustaine to Queen?
Don't make me go there.
Freddie and Dave?
Don't make me go there.
Unbelievable, Dan.
I'd see that show.
And this was the end of the podcast.
I would watch that show. Yeah, that's when Joe and Josh murdered Dan in the back.
All we have to do is convince Dave to re-record the Highlander soundtrack.
Oh, man.
Who wants to live forever? I'd listen to it.
You could definitely hear that this is a song that was, yeah, we're listening to it now. I don't know, yeah, it's in my, I don't know. I'm at a lost for words for this album. Like, it's not one of my favorites. It's definitely gone in a different direction. This is one of those songs where I can pick, 4 or 5 songs on it, and like, all right, I really like these songs, and then the rest of the album is, take it or leave it.
I have to really be in the mood for it.
Yeah,
but,
like it's a certain mood to be in for that for sure.
but I think it says a lot for Dave that he can write a good song that most people would enjoy.
I can definitely see why this is their biggest grossing song. I mean,
For
it
sure.
it has all the makings of a standard hit for radio
Right.
and video and whatever other avenue.
So, confession. This album has my Megadeth guilty pleasure on it. Dan knows.
She-Wolf.
I was
Absolutely.
gonna say,
Douche.
Talk about a little out of place.
Yeah, it's a metal song just thrown in there. Like,
you're like, wait a
hey,
minute,
just so you guys know, we have some other albums out and they sound like this.
is this a hidden track?
Yeah.
Oh no, sir. This is track 10.
To close the album out, Jack, just to let you guys know. That's funny.
I want to keep talking about this album. I really can't. Because I don't want to talk about Risk, but
Well, like I said, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on Risk, and
it's like, it's Megadeth. It's the start or the continuation of this.
I mean, when you get a
Let's
been that's been
do
around
something
as long
different.
as some of these bands have, you're gonna have these 2, 3, 4 albums, in the middle or end of the career. That's like, they did an album, they tried something different.
I don't want to talk about it.
Like, there's not much to discuss. It was
Because like I've been really nice up to this point. Like
Tell me how you really feel.
I don't hate it. I like Dave Mustaine's voice.
well, again, they're trying
You
to
know.
sound, what year is this? What year is this? Is this 98?
Cryptic Writings
Yeah,
was 97.
97. So I thought, wouldn't this have been around the time that Reload have come out?
Yeah.
So I can see the style change in quote unquote metal at this time. I think he's just trying to write what he thinks would be played on the radio, or he thinks like what, new metal bands, like new metal would sound like. I think he's just trying to stay relevant, and it's just failed. It's just,
If it didn't have She-Wolf on it, I wouldn't own it. That's me being honest.
I think a lot of people did. And I think their hardcore fans gave up years ago before this. So who are they appealing to?
It was a hard record to get through.
Yeah, it's
Do we have to talk about Risk?
no. Next.
It has Crush 'Em on it.
Crush 'Em's a good song. It sounds better live, but
Now, this is Load and Reload. I'm sorry.
yeah, this this was the same period, the same, I could just see Dave like trying to get over the Metallica thing, and then Fuel or something comes on, and he listens to Until It Sleeps, and he's like, damn it, I can do that. I can do better than that.
It sounds like it was recorded in Nashville. It
That's
just drives
right.
me nuts.
Yeah.
I listen to the guitar and
If
I'm like,
metal had
I
gone
hear it.
country.
It's that wanky country sound, but it's Dave, and it's like, no.
James did
Dave.
Mama Said, I can do that too.
No comment.
You don't even have a word to say, do you, Dan?
No comment.
Okay, so
Moving
Yes,
on.
comment. What were they thinking? Like, honestly.
That's it. They weren't thinking,
Like,
man.
first of all, you pulled this shit 2 times already, okay? Like, I get it, man. I like making money too. Keep in mind, though, me and all my douchebag buddies are who's paying your bills.
I was going to say, we pay for you to
We're
do that.
buying your albums, okay? We're buying your tapes. We're buying your LPs. We're buying everything because you have such sweet cover art. And then I put the record in and I listen to it. And I'm just irritated because, like, I mean, dude, do you know why people like Megadeth? Clearly you don't.
He was in a dark place, Dan, okay?
No, I don't care. No, when you're in a dark place, you put out dark records. And dark records are very metal, Josh. This is not metal.
Well, this is why Metallica can do something like this, and it sells records, and Dave does it.
I know, right? I didn't freak out like this about Load and Reload.
I know. Load Reload is not far off of this.
I don't know, man.
Do you remember Mama Says?
It is,
Do you remember Mama Says?
Yeah, I do, Josh. Thank you for bringing that up. But you know what?
Do you remember Outlaw Torn? Ronnie?
Outlaw Torn was great, though. It was so heavy.
Well,
it was, man. It was like slow and build it up. Wow. Like it built up. It was epic in scope. There's nothing like that on this record.
I don't disagree with you.
This
I don't know
is
why
garbage.
you're yelling at me. I'm just saying.
Like because Metallica did a different style and it sounded good. On this record, it did not sound good.
I don't disagree with you. Quit yelling.
Sorry.
Son of a bitch.
That's what we pay him for.
I know. I agree with you.
Wait,
he did try to do something different. It didn't work on this album. I mean,
so
it didn't work. You're right.
Not at all.
And honestly, for a band that's been rock solid up to this point, I'm willing to give this one a free pass.
Sure, you get a pet. They're not all of their albums are going to be 100% gold every time.
Right.
So help me out here. Did Megadeth go away after this record, or was it the next record? Because there was a little time frame where Megadeth was no more.
It was
and then
after,
Dave says,
it was
no,
after The World Needs a Hero.
Yeah, after this one, they were gone for like 4 or 5 years. It's like he had, I think the time he had nerve issues with his arm, and he wasn't
damage.
Sure if he was even going to play again.
Yep.
And
so can I redeem Risk for you,
stuff.
Dan?
No.
I can actually. Because this is The World Needs a Hero.
Oh yeah. Return to Hangar.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, like that's the most honest thing they could have made it. You know, like most honest song they could have made.
Dave snapped out of it and was like, "Okay, we'll go back. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Dan. I got a letter. I got a letter in the mail, from Dave saying he was personally sorry, and included a copy of the new record. None of this happened. This is all fiction.
A personal note. I wrote this song for Dan.
Yeah, I love it though, man. So it wasn't a return to Rust in Peace. I would say musically, this is a lot closer to Countdown, which is not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
I had no problem with The World Needs a Hero, and it was really great. The world did need a hero, and you know what? It was Dave Mustaine.
Yeah,
he was the hero.
It's a good bounce back album.
It should have been called Metal Needs a Hero.
What fans they had left at this point, they were like, oh, thank God. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, really liked this record a lot. I remember being
back to good riffs.
because this is when I was more cognizant. Risk, I actually bought with my own. It was like one of the first records I bought with my own money.
I'm sorry.
And
would you like a refund?
So I think that my freak out is kind of more that in that
I spent money on this and I did not get what I was expecting.
Right, because
and it wasn't good.
He remind me of Jason Newsted talking about Load and Reload.
Josh is a professional Metallica comparist.
That's right.
It's just
they're the bar they set the bar high. Dave constantly compares himself to them. His whole career was built on that.
That is kind of true, yeah.
I mean, he up until their last couple of albums, I think everything he was trying to do was keep up with them.
I agree.
While still being, Megadeth at the same time.
But The World Needs a Hero is definitely a step in the right direction.
Yes.
It's a good band. It's My Megadeth is back. And, there's a lot of good songs on it. I didn't love everything on it, but, my God, was it better than Risk.
You're like, okay, I will now see what you have to offer beyond this.
Right. It's kind of like Death Magnetic in that response.
Yeah, okay, all right.
It's not like Death Magnetic was a great record, but oh my God, for what it followed,
Let me introduce myself. I'm a social
Just makes you feel better listening to it, doesn't it?
It does, dude. You have no idea. Kind of freaked out there for a minute.
I know.
I
Welcome
apologize.
back.
I apologize for that.
So between 2001 and
doesn't happen
2004,
too much.
what happened?
So Dave actually had some nerve damage.
I forget the
in his
story
shoulder.
What happened.
Yeah, I think it was nerve damage in his shoulder, and basically he was told, I guess, that he was never going to play again.
Don't tell Dave Mustaine that.
You tell Dave Mustaine he can't play guitar. That's a good way to get a pool stick broke off in your butthole. Like it's just not. It's not cool.
Dave's not going to take that line down.
No, and he didn't. During this time, actually, so I don't even know if this is relevant to the discussion. I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Dave converted to Christianity during this point. So, like, I like to believe it that he's like, hey, Jesus, can I continue to play Megadeth songs? And Jesus was like, I'm anxiously awaiting the next Megadeth
That's
album.
right. When can we have it? I'll heal your arm.
Right.
What do you need to do?
I'll heal your arm, but you got to promise to never do Risk again. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what had happened. Like, was it just years of playing, or if he's seen Had Filled One Up in Flames, he's like, well, I got to get hurt. I can bounce back too.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's something to do with that.
I've actually never heard anyone make that comparison.
I just was thinking about it. I'm like, well, that's kind of coincident.
This is way
Hetfield
better.
gets burnt out, but then Dave's like, oh, okay, well, you know what? My arm's going to fall off, and I'm going to put it back on and play.
Right.
This is my number one Megadeth record right here.
Really?
System Has Failed.
Wow.
And
I mean, it's a great comeback record. It's more Megadeth than even The World Needs a Hero is. This is like old school Megadeth right here.
if I'm going to sit down and listen to a record, I usually say, well, if I listen to She-Wolf, I'm stuck. But if
Right.
I listen to Kick the Chair, I've got
the
at least
Chair.
5 other
Yeah.
good options here.
Yeah, I definitely get pretty excited when I hear Kick the Chair. Blackmail the Universe is awesome. We're back to war and politics and
I
everything.
know.
Like
the stuff
immediately.
that makes them them.
Even sneaks of Mice and Men in there.
Yeah, I mean it's just it's got a lot of the heaviness of the old Megadeth, but it also has a lot of
Newer sound.
yeah, but like catchy songs, but like not like Risk. I can't stress that enough.
Still trying to sound
They
mainstream.
never did
but
anything that sounded like Risk again.
Yeah, no.
Well, we'll get to United Abominations.
Oh, you don't like United Abominations?
I don't dig it.
It's not Risk bad.
Well, no, nothing is Risk bad.
No.
I would
mean,
say it's close.
Just like nothing is Saint Anger bad.
The System Has Failed was a really important Megadeth record in the sense that it was like, okay, Dave's back. He's still pissed off about, everything.
About the government, money,
and politics and all that stuff. And it was good to hear. The songs were catchy. I think every song on that record is redeemable. There's not a whole lot of skip on that record. It's I don't want to say
it's another one of those records you could pop it in and listen from the first song all the way to the end, and then
Sure.
I'm like, nope, skip.
I mean, and
skip.
it's close to Rust in Peace. It's
But
just not.
not
There's the
quite.
youthful energy to Rust in Peace that it's not captured here.
But I don't think you were going to recreate that regardless. Anyway, I mean, that's like.
But you can't, man. There's a certain magic in every record you release that reflects the time and space that you were in.
And then that brings us to the next one.
All right, Joe, tell me how you feel about United
I know.
Abominations.
I mean,
I
impartial.
can't
It's
give
okay.
you I can't give you your type of outbreak on it, but
Outbreak.
well, that's what Dan has every time he listens to Risk.
I
Yeah, I know what you're
I actually
thinking. Don't you
skipped
mean
that.
don't you mean
stardom.
outburst? No, I mean outbreak.
I actually skipped Risk when I was prepping for the podcast.
Yeah, I believe.
Well,
I believe you.
You
did.
remember how I asked you? I asked you how you felt about.
Yeah, I was curious.
I asked only about what was it? No, I actually asked
Risk
about
and-
Risk, didn't I?
Risk and, what was
cryptic writings.
Cryptic Writings.
Yeah.
It's trying to sound mainstream.
I that's kind of it sounds like the record they should have made when they made Risk.
I don't think that this is. I don't think the United Abominations sounds any worse than Countdown.
Oh no, it doesn't sound bad. It's just the songs aren't really memorable to
It's
me.
meh.
There's nothing
Sure, I get
catchy.
that.
It's just another
The
album.
unnecessary re-record of a Tulimon with a female singing backup.
That was awesome.
Not really.
Okay.
Did you
Been
need
there,
it?
done that.
Did you need it?
No, I didn't.
Is
need
it better than the first one?
Joe, I don't need heavy metal albums. Okay, but
I'm talking about the re-record. Did you need
is
it?
this maybe an album where he was just like, I don't have a whole lot of ideas on this one. I kind of ran short.
I think he
just
wanted to.
complete
I think he
it.
wanted to follow up. The System Has Failed,
Like we gotta,
which is
we gotta
obviously a
better.
record that took years to make, whereas this one didn't. It took like a year or less. I mean, that's just where it's at. But
It's not a bad album. I'm just with Joe. Yeah, it's not catchy. There's not anything that you can go, oh, I love that song.
But I don't think it's bad. When I listen to it,
it's not a bad album.
I
but
don't
it's
not enjoy
great.
myself.
I can't think of anything on it that I need to put it in to listen. I can't. There's no riff. There's no song. If I think of United Abominations, I'm thinking of the re-record of A Tool of Mont just to show you why that doesn't need to exist.
Sure.
But the riffs are there.
But Joe, it filled another track up.
Just because you can fill a track doesn't mean
he was either like it was that song.
Oh, trust
or
me, I know.
It was either that or it was a leftover from Risk album, Dan. So
I filled up an entire track with noise before. I get it.
You would.
I did.
So the next album, however,
Endgame.
I don't know where I would start the third era of Megadeth. I don't know if it would start with The System as failed.
I think it starts with System.
Yeah.
But Endgame, this is where Dave is now. This is where he has been since 2009, and he has not deviated.
Yeah. Endgame.
This is the era of this is what a Megadeth song sounds like. Here's 12 of them. Enjoy.
Endgame gave me a raging fanboy boner. It did, man. It was heavy, but like almost like more modern. I don't know how to really to explain it. Like
Head Crusher.
The Head Crusher. Oh my God!
Yeah, Head
right?
Crusher's
Like where did that even come from? Like that is so extreme for Megadeth.
Like Dave, why didn't you write this before?
Right?
Where was this at?
It seems to me like he had to have had that idea like in a closet somewhere for years.
I'm
like,
just saving this. My
like
ace
you
in the
know what,
hole.
guys? This is it. This is the record that we're going to put Head Crusher
That's
on.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to come back here.
Right. So I mean, like he sounds pissed off. He sounds like he did in the '80s. Like I love this record.
He's like, all right, Metallica might be over with for good. This is our time to shine.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like this is where like they were uniquely put a band that was putting out records that were just as good as what they had put out in their first four.
Yeah, you can compare this to their first
Yeah,
era.
I mean, honestly, it was a really strong start.
It holds up.
Kind of a soggy middle, but then like an extremely amazing comeback.
I think
Endgame just kills it. I mean, System Has Failed was great, but this is like really thrash metal. Like
I was gonna say, I think the return of the thrash riffs is evident on this album.
I think with Megadeth, like when System came out, I was happy with something that sounded similar to Countdown.
It reminds you of Rust in Peace, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
There it is.
Yeah, and it's like
that's why I love it.
I was happy with stuff that sounded like Countdown because I thought they were never really going to go back to that old thrash sound. And then they put this out, and I'm just like, I mean,
it gives you hope
Now,
for the
yeah,
future.
like, is Dave like reading my mind?
Keep in mind, this is 2009.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Jump forward 2 years.
Yeah.
You're on 13.
We got 13, and we get the same thing.
Yep.
Again, only better, not better. But
I would say it's equal.
It is equal,
It's
absolutely.
equal. This is 0.2.
They kind of pulled
Part 2.
They kind of pulled a Slayer here.
We found something that works.
Yeah.
Do it again.
Yeah, we're gonna stick to this formula forever because this is what people love, and this is what people show up to see.
And I was gonna say, and it's working. I mean, at this point, they're back into touring, soccer stadiums. In Europe, the big four out doing it.
And Megadeth's image has changed over the years.
Sure. At this point, Dave's mellowed out. He's not so much angry with the whole Metallica thing.
Right.
He's over it.
They've played shows with Metallica.
Yeah, I mean they're friends again. Like,
he was on. He played with them live on what was it, Joe? The
30-year anniversary of
30
Metallica.
years, yep.
Yeah, he played live with them. It was great, and
all was forgiven. He was like, you know what? Life's too short.
All
I
of
think-
these years where people
and
were
guess what,
picking
guys?
on him.
My album's gonna get Album of the Year in 2017.
That's
so
right.
what? Yeah, he probably didn't say what.
I was gonna say,
I
I don't think Dave would have. Yeah,
I mean, so
he
what?
might have, but no, I just think it was just finally Dave just playing music just to thrash, like
Yep.
I mean, I'm
not doing it for. I'm sure he does it for the fans, but not doing it to compete, not doing it for the money, doing
Dude,
it just 'cause
Super
he wants
Collider.
to.
Yeah, I'm about to jump in the time machine and jump another 2 years, and here's Super Collider.
Oh, so good too.
I mean, when I said the last four
A
albums,
little softer on this one, but yeah, still great.
The last four records that they put out, they're in the same ballpark. It's here's Megadeth. This is what they sound like. Enjoy.
Oh yeah.
Favorites out of the last four, then.
Oh, favorites out of the last four?
Yeah, what's your favorite album out of the last four?
Oh,
Probably Dystopia.
That mine is now.
I'm that guy.
Before that came out, it would have been, but
I would it's either going to be Dystopia or it's going to be Endgame.
Endgame was until Dystopia came out, and then it was like,
Yeah.
geez, this is, man.
I
like,
mean,
I'm
like,
excited for another Megadeth album. Like,
Dave actually sounds like scarier on Dystopia than he
the
did
older
on...
he gets.
Yeah, like it's deeper. That's the first thing I noticed about Dystopia.
It's like
was
he's that psychotic uncle that's in the corner
Yeah,
writing, like
yeah,
talking
it's
to himself.
dark and
like,
yeah.
What?
He's talking about like the end of the world and stuff. It's just like, you know,
Dave, what have you been doing?
right? It's like he knows something that we don't.
I know.
You know, like,
the conspiracy
it's-
theorist
yeah.
Dave is
Yeah, I mean, I love
makes
it.
Hangar 18 seem real now.
Right.
What do you know, Dave?
Hangar 18 is real.
This
didn't
record,
you know?
this record is musically
another podcast.
rock solid.
It is. It's technically sound. It's tight.
There's no songs that I skip, and it's just so unusual because like Metallica's never gonna put out a record that's gonna make me feel the same way that Master of Puppets makes me feel. But Megadeth makes me feel the way I felt the first time I heard Rust in Peace with Dystopia.
Yeah, but I
Really?
think that sounds. I think it's because they're all real similar in style.
But they don't sound the same. But like,
Well, yeah, but I think musically, with Metallica, like every album since Master of Puppets has been different from the previous, and they haven't really gone back to that Master of Puppets
no,
formula. Whether it be it that they don't want to, or they've done that. I think with Megadeth, I think they wanted to go back to that sound, and I think they did well with going back to that sound. Whereas some bands go back and they're like, "Man, what are you doing? Like, give it up. You can't sound like that anymore."
right? Well, clearly they can. Like,
yeah, Dave. Megadeth clearly can still do that.
he doesn't care at all. He just does it, and like,
which makes them a rare exception.
right. And I think
Not
that's why
bands
they're
can
so.
do.
I think that's why they're so revered as a metal band because there aren't a lot of metal bands that I can think of that have done that. Except maybe like Slayer or Iron Maiden, which basically basically released the exact same sound throughout their
And
career.
people will eat it up because
Right.
Judas Priest?
Yeah, I mean they did for the long.
No. Judas Priest was stylistically different when they started than later on.
That is true. I guess I meant what they're known
I mean,
for.
go listen to British Steel and then listen to Painkiller. Not even in the same
I'm just going to stick
ballpark.
with Iron Maiden on that one because
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
That's the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking two separate podcasts here: Judas Priest and Iron Maiden.
Can we do a podcast about metal, just in general?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't see why not.
All right. Maybe that'll be coming up.
Joe,
here in a
we
few
can
weeks.
do whatever we want.
We pretty much can.
I mean, I know I can.
Nobody's stopping you.
You're right.
I think that's why. I think that's what at this point it's they can sound like their old stuff, but it's modern. It still kicks ass. It's going to continue to kick ass. Dystopia comes out.
Metal album of the year.
It's even better than before.
Yeah.
He can do it because he's Dave Mustaine. He's Megadeth.
Yeah, I want to hear what's next.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, definitely. It almost makes me wonder, like, I just always wondered what Metallica would sound like had Dave stayed, what their course would have been, if he would have been kicked out at some point, would he have left? I
don't know.
Would there be no there would be no Dave Mustaine anger, Dave Mustaine riffs from that?
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be weird.
It would be. Would Metallica have been popular as
The
they would
world,
have been
the
without
world.
it?
Would you say the world is a better place because Megadeth exists?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I agree.
Unfortunately, I'm glad that he was kicked out because I think had he stayed, Metallica wouldn't have been as good.
Yeah.
And I think they're better off without him, and he was better off without them.
Yep.
And we were better off as fans for having him.
It's kind of like when your parents get divorced, right?
I think the best.
I said that.
I think the best thing the best songs that are ever written by Metallica were written by James and Lars, even if all they did was arrange them.
Sure.
So no matter what happens, you eventually would have had Dave be gone because at some point he's just going to want to have his opinion.
I'll agree with that, but
Megadeth is the
78
definite
second solo
explanation
here.
of his
Go on.
opinion.
She's like, I would be like Leonard Skinner to have 4 guitar solos.
Well, we wouldn't. I don't think with Dave Mustaine in the band, we would have gotten iconic Metallica
I agree
songs
with
like
Joe.
Nothing Else Matters.
He would have been
and,
booted out at some point, but at the point he would have been booted out, would Metallica be relevant? Probably not. They just would have been just another thrash band that might have died, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a
destroyed
time machine,
themselves.
yeah.
Kill 'Em All would have come out. You probably wouldn't have had Ride the Lightning.
it'd be interesting to see in a different.
Yeah, I mean,
timeline.
I would imagine if Dave wouldn't have been kicked out, that you would have had Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets would have been Kill 'Em All 2 and Kill 'Em All 3.
Possible.
Like, I think that's what would
Well,
have
with that
happened.
much
If the
testosterone,
band
I
had
mean,
survived that long.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. If they were even together at that point, sure. Am I glad they got kicked out? Definitely. As a metal fan, for sure.
yeah, I agree.
Because you got two great bands out of it, as opposed to maybe not having none.
So here's the guitar player's question, Josh. If some kid comes up to you today and says, I want to play metal, are you going to tell him to go listen to Metallica, or are you going to tell him to go listen to Megadeth?
Look at Megadeth for sure, and then listen to Metallica. Like James Hetfield, I love him. He's one of the better riff guys out there. But if you're wanting to be from a technical or just riff guitar driven, learn Megadeth first, and then you can do Metallica.
That's an interesting view. Final thoughts on Megadeth, Dan?
I just want to hear the next album. I'm hooked. I mean, I'm hooked again. I feel the same way about Megadeth now as I did when I was 12.
Dave is
I just want to hear more. Yeah,
awesome
I want more of dystopia. I want more. And I think what separates this from stuff like Slayer is that, I want to hear more from Slayer too, but
you know what you're going to hear.
they're never going to give me something that sounds different than what I already have.
No, it's going to be another anti-religious type.
But with
metal.
with Megadeth, you have more memorable songs. So like the concept of having 10 new memorable songs for me to digest over the course of 2 years, I'm really into that, and I want to hear more. And that comes from a sincere place. I mean,
Dave, give us more.
Yeah, I love the band, and if Megadeth ever breaks up, I'm going to lock myself in my room like a little girl.
I would say anybody that's stuck in that rut where they think that Megadeth is not worth listening to, not only are you out of date, you're just an idiot.
Dan, Megadeth's not going to break up because Dave's just going to find somebody else that'll fill in for
He's
him.
had
I'll
like
do it.
14 lineups.
I know.
Even if I'd have to just beat a tambourine in the background,
they had
I'll
the
do it.
same four guys, I think, through the fourth album, and then the guitar player and the drummer were fired for drugs, and then the other two they had in were there for like one album or two albums. Then then their bass player left, and then he came back. Like it was a revolving door of people for either drugs, alcohol. Couldn't get along with Dave.
Probably mostly that one.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, everyone knows the stories. He's a difficult guy to get along with, but out of that comes creative genius. And for that, we thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. My album of the week is by the band American Standards, and it is Still Life from 2012. What about you, Dan? What do you got?
Living Sacrifice, self-titled Living Sacrifice.
Josh, what do you got?
I've been listening to a lot of old Ozzy stuff and Randy Rhoads stuff because I've been picking around on the guitar lately. So
Cool.
I am saying Blizzard of Oz or Diary of a Madman. It's just anything from Randy Rhoads in his early career before he was cut short.
I like it.
Fantastic stuff. Not so much Ozzy, just Randy.
Throne Ozzy.
I like
We are going to be taking off. Hey, everybody's got to like Ozzy.
Yep.
So-
Ozzy and Black Sabbath.
Thank you for listening.
You
once
guys
again.
have a great night.
And we will see you next week when we talk about the greatest metal band to ever exist.
Yeah, screw Metallica, screw Pantera, screw Megadeth. Everybody knows.
You want to
that
tell
we're
them
gonna
who it
talk
is?
about-
No, you want to tell them who it is, or you want to
yeah.
leave it hanging?
Let's leave it hanging.
Leave it hanging.
Yeah.
I mean,
You guys get it too.
who could be?
This band makes every band we've talked about sound like garbage. That's all I got to say.
You just said that, right?
That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Podcast over.
We will see you guys next week.
Out.
Set my